Захарий Stoyanov, author of Notes on the Bulgarian Uprisings, was an interesting and complex personality. He was not only a writer of original vision, but was also one of the prominent Bulgarian revolutionaries during the struggles of the Bulgarian people against Ottoman bondage in the 19th century. In his notes, Захарий Стоянов describes his experience during the revolutionary struggles, and especially in 1876, the year when the April Uprising broke out. Захарий Стоянов led an interesting and fascinating life. There are few examples in the history of nations of men of his type, rising from the lowest strata of society and by painful and persistent effort becoming a cultured person. He passed unscathed and strong through trials under gunpowder and bullets. Almost all his comrades fell. The fearful hand of death constantly hung over him. But it seems as if a great power had stretched a protective wing over him to keep him safe. He survived to reveal to us the brilliance of an epoch, the power of a bright flame which he carried as a precious gift in his heart, and his love of the people, of everything Bulgarian.
Захарий Стоянов. Име светло и легендарно. Име символ, име неподвластно на времето. Като възпитаници на профилирана гимназия с преподаване на западни езици град Сливен, ние сме горди, че патрон на нашето училище е именно този даровит човек. Общественик, революционер, журналист, литературен гений. По повод 146 години от избухването на Априлското въстание и 50 годишнината на нашата гимназия сме подбрали откъси от Записки по българските въстания. Том 2, глава 1. Въстанието в 1876 година, Панагюрище. Преведени на английски език.
The Uprising of 1876, Panagyuriste. It was, as I said, the 20th of April. Nothing special marked the beginning of that day. We had lunch and then sat down to discuss some details of our affairs. Suddenly, the courtyard gates opened. Virtue had waited a minute before opening to see who was knocking, but assuring himself that he knew the visitors, he flung the gates open. But how strange, how amazed we were to see not one or two, but virtually all the leading citizens of Panagyuriste, some 10 or 12 in number. They walked with their heads bent down. They looked thoughtful, and the expression in their faces showed that all was not well, that something important had happened.
"Pistols ready," Economic cried out, and all of us jumped to our feet and rushed to meet them before they had got to the door. "What's the matter, gentlemen? What do you think you're doing? What's this crowd?" we all shouted together. "Have we been betrayed?" "There's no such thing. But the business has started," they said after a few moments of silence. They looked guiltily at each other. They were silent, the expression and the color of their faces changing, which was proof enough that all was not well. We thought of betrayal again. "It is 3 hours now since the rifles have started firing at Uprisings. The uprising has begun," said Bobakov in a voice strangled with emotion.
"We've brought the letter from Kablishko, signed in blood," a few of the elders said. Tears the size of hailstones ran down from everyone's eyes. We all cried out, "Rebellion! To arms!" Then Benkovsky rushed up to Bulgakov, who had been the first to utter the word, "Uprising," kissed him, and unable to say a word, turned to embrace his comrades, who were also crying. A remarkable moment. The elders of Panagyuriste regarded the scene with awe. No one daring to move, no one spoke. There was much to be said, but our emotions kept our lips sealed, holding sway over prudence and over courage. "Kablishko's letter! Quick, the letter!" we shouted at last in one voice. everyone trying to snatch the letter in his hand. The letter got in Bulgar's hands, but he was unable to conceal it. His hands were shaking so violently. He couldn't took it from him and started reading it, but no sooner had he read the words, "Dear brothers," then his voice failed him, and we could not make out what he was saying. The content of the letter, which was read a lengthy and loud voice by Benkovsky, were as follows.
Dear brothers, yesterday there arrived in our village, Nejepaga, from Plovdiv, who wanted to arrest me and a few other men. Being apprised of your decision at Boishte, I called together several brave young men, and after aiming ourselves, we marched to the Konak, attacked it and killed the Mudur and several Zaptias. As I am writing this letter, our flag is waving before the Konak. Rifles are firing accompanied by the echo of church bells, and our brave men are kissing each other in the streets. If you, brothers, are real patriots and apostles of freedom, follow our example at Panagurishte. Koprivstica, April 20th, 1876.
Rebellion, uprising. Bulgakov, quick, call all the men together. Ring the church bells. Fire a few volleys to proclaim the uprising. To arms! What are we waiting for? Our brothers are fighting already. Benkovsky thundered at the top of his voice, everybody joining in. We were all shaking with emotion. Benkovsky's face was changed. He roared out his command like a veritable lion. Large breaths of sweat stood on his high brow. He would have soared like an eagle out of Bey Ivan's courtyard, had he been able to, while tears were running down the noble-hearted. Wolf's face, and he was shouting, "Quick, brothers, open the gate and let us out. Let us be the first victims." The sun pointed around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when the four of us rushed like a whirlwind, out in the street, waving bare swords and our green banner, barefoot and bareheaded. As soon as we were out in the streets, we started singing. You can imagine the impression of the appearance in the streets made not only the women and the children, and all who did not know us, but even some of our close acquaintances.
After walking around the deserted streets for half an hour, we were happy to hear a few shots fired from the upper part of the village. But why they had been fired, we had no way of knowing. A few minutes later, we were met in the street by Ivan Popov, one of the outstanding workers in Panagurishte, armed from the head to toe. "Long live Bulgaria!" he called out, unsheathing his long knife. The shouting grew louder, and the north wind brought the echo of heroic songs from various parts of the village, interrupted from time to time by thunderous shouts of "Long live!" The atmosphere grew more solemn every minute. There were only 2 of us when we set off from the bridge. Now we were 20 or 30.
The fighters, some on foot, some on horseback, were more than 500 in number. No one knew how and in what manner the uprising had taken place, at whose command and by force of what discipline so many people had got together in such a short time. In the meantime, the sun was going down in the west, and everybody thought that the hateful days of slavery were going too. The numbers of rebels was growing steadily, as was their enthusiasm. The shouts of "Hurrah!" were louder and louder. The people and the rebels who crowded in the marketplace resembled the stormy sea. Long live Bulgaria! Long live the apostles and heroes! Death to the tyrant were the words that marked the end of the day.